Alright guys, welcome to my Reaper audio to OBS guide. So I'm going to quickly explain how I run my audio personally with a few tips and tricks. Hopefully that'll help you with your audio too. I'm running a cheaper microphone, so my audio isn't completely great, but if you have a better mic like a Blue Yeti or something, you would have no issues running through and setting this up pretty easily. So your first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have OBS installed. You have your scenes and all your stuff set up, and then after that you're going to want to download Reaper, the program. It's a paid program, but you can basically test out for a little bit and experiment with the audio and say you're still evaluating and run it for a bit. You don't need to purchase it right off the bat. And then we come over to Reaper plugins. You're going to want all these links will be in the description, so if you want to, you can also Google search Reaper plugins too. And you're going to want to download 64-bit if you're on Windows 10. I don't really recommend ever really getting 32-bit. Make sure when you install the plugins that you leave it in the default location, or OBS will not pick up the plugins. So now that you've gone all you needed to get Reaper running, we're going to open Reaper here. The first thing you're going to want to do you can see I have inserted a track already, but inserting a track is pretty easy. You go to the left side of the screen here, you right click, insert new track. Then the first thing you're always going to want to do is click FX. And then in the FX menu, it brings up this screen over here. The ones I recommend to grab here are Comp, Equalizer, Per, and Gate. And then you're also going to want to grab the one that says Stream for moving the audio from Reaper to OBS. Once you get all those guys added, you can start actually playing around with it. I'll switch back to my other one where I actually have them going. So here's my equalizer. What I'd recommend is, you can see here I have this one set to -12, and I have its bandwidth set to really small. I slide that around to adjust my audio. And then you're also going to always want to have a high and a low pass to cut off excess audio that you don't need, that your equalizer shouldn't be computing at all. So that helps cancel out the low end that's too bassy and high end sounds that people can't even hear. And then basically you just move around the guy until you get where you want, and then you adjust how much gain there is, whether you think I should add a bit more or I should add a bit less, where you really want it. So like you can see here, my mid-range of my voice is pretty bad, so I have it down a bit, but I want to make sure I have bass so it sounds a little bit more like there's life in it. If I remove this, it would sound like I was sort of dead. And over here, you just want to make sure your high end is always high, because you can see my vocal range is very low, so I always want to boost the higher syllables so it matches the rest of my voice. Now we're gonna, before I get out of there, make sure you click the plus sign too at the top, save preset, set it to any name you want. I have mine set to user, so that you never lose any of your profiles after you set them, or if you accidentally click on another preset, it'll be gone. So make sure you save it by clicking the plus sign, save preset, give it a name, and it'll appear in the preset drop down menu, and you can just click on it. Make sure you do that for all of them after you're done setting them up. So I have a user profile for all of them. So now I'm going to come over to Ray first. So this is basically going to cancel out any mic issues you have, such as squealing sounds on your mic, and also it'll clear out a bit of the background noise. So you set it to precise. I have mine set to 8192, but you can set it to 496 if you want. I have best quality, and then I set it to subtract. and I have no output gain set whatsoever either on my EQ or this, but I recommend if you are doing output gain, make sure you do it on the EQ and not here, as this might accidentally boost background noise. And then after you've got all these three set up here, you're going to click this button. Don't talk at all, it'll cancel out your voice if you do hit it while talking, but basically you click this button, you let it run for about 60 seconds, this red line will start to form down here. After it's done 60 seconds, you remove the check mark, and that builds your profile. Once your profile is built, it should cancel out all that stuff. I also have a gate. You can see I also have a user profile saved. Make sure you save it. And then you want to set your gate to basically below where you really, when you talk quietly, you want it to be just below that point. I have mine set to 3 milliseconds on the attack, 100 on the hold, and 200 on the release. This makes it so when I'm talking and I'm just going quickly, it won't fade away too quickly, but if I do a long pause, you'll hear it cut out, so that way background noise, I have a fan running and a few other things in the background, it won't get picked up. Now that you have your gate set, you're going to want to come to the compressor. The compressor is just as important as the equalizer. This is very important. So what you're going to want to do is, first thing is you're going to want to set your ratio. Set your ratio to around 4 to 10. 10 is known as the radio sort of ratio. 4 is more if you have a higher voice. I have mine set to around 6. I guess you really just want to play with this yourself to find out what works for you. I do not want a weird knee turned on. Now that we have this basically set, did I have weird knee on by default? I'll just click my profile. Yeah, I didn't have it on. Okay, I'm just messing with myself now in the middle of this recording. The next important thing about the compressor is the attack time. I set mine to 1 millisecond, so it attacks as quickly as it gets above that bar. The compressor is there, it's on it. Next, you're going to want your release at about 100 milliseconds. You really don't want it. You could set it to 200 milliseconds. That affects how fast it slides on this side below, but I have it set to 100 because I want it to be fairly quick. The next important part of this is over here, the wet. So what wet is when you're talking, you can see it minuses in the output mix, and it tells you how much it's minusing. So you can see I have mine minus 6.8 is the audio minus currently on the audio if I hit the compressor too loud. And I basically add the 6.7 so that when I'm talking, it still sounds natural. If you don't have this set, basically your voice will just be a little bit flat because your compressor will just keep it the same sound all the way across. But if you add a little bit of wet, it'll allow your voice to raise and fall a little bit, which adds to the quality of the audio and makes it sound more natural. I have low pass and high pass set, but you personally probably just going to want to leave this stuff at the default down here. You don't really need to play with it. You mostly just want to make sure this stuff up here is set to something that works for your audio. Next, I have stream. This is actually what's moving the audio over into OBS. So my output on this guide actually doesn't really matter. No matter what, you have to have an audio device set for your output. But what happens here is I say send audio on Reaper, local broadcast, and that sends it locally on my computer over to OBS. And I'll show you over here on OBS, I have the microphone. I have a dud microphone set up here so that OBS doesn't get the audio twice. I click filters. You can see I have stream open on this side too. And this guy's just set to receive, and you can see both the sliders are working. If one slider isn't working, you sort of know which side has the problem if you're having troubles there. But for the most part, most of your stuff should be done on Reaper side, and then you just use this and say receive, and you shouldn't run into any issues on your OBS side whatsoever. We're just going to close that. And that's done by clicking add VST plugin at the bottom. I just named it Reaper. You can name it anything. Once you have the plugins installed, you'll get that option to click on the stream and add it in there, and then you can go and plug in interface and make sure it's set up properly. So that's that side for OBS of what I'm doing over there. And then we come back over to this guy. So what you can also do is when you're testing this out for the first time, you can click the record button. It'll start recording a soundtrack. Just talk like you would talk normally. Stop the recording. Make sure it's on toggle repeat mode. And then you're basically at that point, that's when you're going to want to play with your equalizer as the audio repeatedly plays in the track. You'll go through and you'll be able to hear yourself and adjust more fine to make sure it sounds like what you want to sound. And it'll also see what your audio sounds like before it goes over to OBS. And then after that, you can just go remove item and delete it. And I'm just going to quickly go here and remove track. So I only have one track running. You can see green light for effects. Make sure record monitoring is on. That's actually what the stream picks up. So if you have this disabled, it will cut your audio out. And that's located right here. Depending on what mode you are, it might switch around. So be careful not to change your default look too much and keep it on the default look so that you obviously know where everything is until you get more advanced with this stuff. So the next part I'm going to explain is in my sound control panel of what I have actually set up for my mic. So I'm going to go open sound settings. I'm going to go sound control panel on the top right here. And you got playback. So this is your headset or your speakers. You're going to want to make sure these are set to the same audio format as your microphone, just so that everything is consistent. Down here you can see I also have my virtual desktop audio, which is my DUD of what Reaper sends the audio to, so that I actually don't hear it and you guys don't hear it. And then on the recording side, I go into microphone. Same thing, you're going to want to go make sure your microphone is on at least DVD quality. You don't really need studio quality unless you have a really high-end mic and you're doing something really fancy, but for the most part, just on YouTube, DVD quality should be fine. Now we come over to another annoying part. Here, you got microphone. I set to 80. It's basically to prevent it from capping out and distorting when you get too loud. I have my microphone set to 30 dB on the decibel boost, just because it's a more quiet mic, but I personally recommend 80 and 20 for your settings on your microphone. Alright, let's get out of there, and down here you can also see I have the virtual microphone. This is also, both my virtuals are all set to the same quality, so that there's no issues there. And this guy's just set to whatever his, doesn't really matter, he's just a fake mic that OBS thinks I'm talking to, but really my audio is coming through the Reaper plugin REA stream from Reaper into OBS. So I hope I've given you guys enough to sort of go in and adjust the audio on your end and maybe use a similar setup to mine. Yours would probably come across way better than mine when I have a very deep voice. Plus, on top of that, I have another issue of I have a really cheap microphone, which I just picked up on Amazon. So, as you can see, I've done a lot of work to make it sound good. You can basically use these things to make almost any mic sound professional, even something like your headset microphone mic, or maybe a webcam microphone. You can really go in, play, and get that audio just the way you want it. But for the most part, that covers all the fronts. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you got some understanding on how to run your audio a bit better. And if you don't want to use the Reaper plugins, there are default plugins too. I'm going to quickly mention that oh, I've lost my train of thought. That OBS offers you. There we go. So OBS has compressor, standard gain, all that stuff on its own. You don't have to go into the plugins to get this stuff. I personally just recommend it because Reaper does a way better job than OBS's default at capturing it. The reason I don't use the Reaper plugins for anything besides the stream on OBS is the plugins are just free and they're a little bit buggy. So I use the actual program to send my audio over. So that it's fair, the plugins are nice for being free. But if you want higher end audio, you're going to have to get the actual program, which is fair, but that's why I'm actually pulling my audio from another device and not just running off the plugins. So I hope you guys enjoyed this beginner's guide to audio/audio Reaper to OBS/plugins and a whole bunch of other stuff we've covered, and hopefully that helps you guys advance your own audio for your channel. Thank you guys for watching.